Welcome on the channel Voices of Reddit. Today we have an intriguing story about the
Am I the bad person for asking my pregnant wife for a paternity test after a suspicious incident? I am a 39-year-old man, and my wife, Sarah, is 38. We've been together for 12 wonderful years, and our relationship has always been strong and harmonious. In all our years together, we've only had a few minor disagreements, and we've always prided ourselves on our open communication and trust. We do almost everything together but also respect each other's independence and personal interests. We bought our dream house, have fulfilling careers with great work-life balance, and have built a life that many would envy. For the past 2 years, we've been trying to start a family. It hadn't been happening for us, and we were on the verge of beginning fertility treatments. Then, one day, I returned home from a business trip, and Sarah excitedly told me she was pregnant. I was overjoyed, but there was a fleeting moment of confusion. I vaguely remembered that we hadn't been trying during a specific week because of upcoming fertility tests, but I brushed it off, thinking I must have misremembered, especially since we'd been quite active in our attempts to conceive. My job requires me to travel extensively, sometimes up to 40 weeks a year. Since the pandemic, it's been less frequent, but I'm still away from home more than I'd like. Over the past 4 or 5 years, Sarah has become close friends with a colleague named Matt, who is about 34 years old. Matt is married, and I know him and his wife fairly well. He's been a regular presence in our lives, often joining us for dinners, sometimes with his wife and sometimes without. Occasionally, he'd come over even when I wasn't there, but I never thought much of it. I trusted Sarah completely. However, I've always believed that in any relationship, there's a small chance, maybe 1%, that a partner could stray. It's not that I suspected Sarah of anything. It's just a reminder to myself not to take our relationship for granted. She's never given me any reason to doubt her. About a month ago, while I was out of state for work, I texted Sarah to see how her day was going. She mentioned that Matt was coming over for dinner. This wasn't unusual, so I didn't think much of it. We have a security system in our home that includes cameras inside and outside, installed after an unrelated incident a few years back. Both Sarah and I can access the live feeds and recordings. We often use them to check on our dog or to playfully interact with each other when one of us is away. That evening, I decided to check the cameras to see how things were at home. What I saw gave me pause. Sarah, who was 4 months pregnant at the time, was lying on the floor on her side. Matt was sitting next to her, straddling her legs, using a foam roller to massage her hips. It struck me as an intimate and unusual situation. Curious, I rewound the footage. Earlier, they had been eating dinner and chatting normally, but then I saw them sitting on the couch under the same blanket, while they were sitting at opposite ends. Our couch isn't that big, and it seemed closer than I'd expect for just friends. Then they moved to the floor, which is when I had logged in. Feeling a surge of anxiety and confusion, I texted Sarah. As I watched the camera feed, I saw both of them react with surprise, like deer caught in headlights. Matt quickly gathered his things and left. When Sarah and I spoke, she assured me that nothing inappropriate was happening. She said she had been experiencing hip and back pain due to the pregnancy, and Matt was helping her alleviate it with the foam roller. While I knew she'd been dealing with discomfort, I couldn't shake the uneasy feeling. I asked her, if I were there, would you have been comfortable doing any of that in front of me? She hesitated before admitting, no, probably not. That admission stung. I told her I needed some time to process everything and that we'd talk more when I got home in a few days. Alone in my hotel room, thousands of miles away, my mind raced. Doubts began to creep in. What if my initial confusion about the timing of her pregnancy wasn't just paranoia? What if there was a chance, even a small one, that the baby wasn't mine? The thought was devastating. When I returned home, Sarah was visibly anxious. We avoided the topic for a couple of days until she finally broke down. She swore that nothing had happened between her and Matt and that she would never betray me. She explained that she hadn't realized how her actions might have appeared and apologized for crossing any boundaries. She was sincere, but the seed of doubt had been planted. I wanted to believe her. In all our years together, she'd never given me a reason to distrust her, but the image of them on the floor, the secrecy, and her own admission made it hard to fully trust her. I began to consider the possibility of getting a paternity test. I hadn't brought it up to her yet, fearing that it would cause unnecessary stress during her pregnancy, which was already considered high risk. However, the uncertainty was eating away at me. I turned to an online forum for advice, explaining the situation anonymously. Many suggested that I should address my concerns directly and request a paternity test sooner rather than later. They pointed out that delaying the conversation could lead to more stress and resentment. Gathering my courage, I sat down with Sarah and expressed my feelings. I told her about my lingering doubts and asked if she would be willing to take a paternity test. To my relief, she immediately agreed. She assured me that she had nothing to hide and understood why I felt the way I did. She even suggested doing the test as soon as possible. We consulted her doctor about the possibility of a prenatal paternity test. However, the doctor advised against any invasive procedures due to potential risks to the baby and Sarah's health. We agreed to wait until after the baby was born to perform the test. Over the next few months, we worked on rebuilding our trust. We had many deep and honest conversations. Sarah was remorseful for putting herself in a situation that caused doubt and promised to set clearer boundaries with Matt. She acknowledged that their friendship might have appeared inappropriate and that she should have been more mindful. As her due date approached, I found myself focusing more on the impending arrival of our child. Part of me was still anxious, but I also felt a renewed connection with Sarah. We attended prenatal classes together, prepared the nursery, and tried to cherish these moments. Finally, the day arrived. Sarah went into labor, and after a grueling 30 hours that ended with an emergency cesarean section, our son was born. He weighed 7 pounds, 10 ounces and was perfectly healthy. Holding him for the first time was an indescribable feeling. Looking at his features, I saw traces of myself and felt a surge of love and protectiveness. Sarah faced some complications during and after the birth, requiring an extended hospital stay. My focus shifted entirely to supporting her and caring for our newborn son. Amidst the whirlwind of emotions and responsibilities, the paternity test was temporarily set aside. Once things settled down and Sarah was on the mend, we proceeded with the test. I sent the samples to the lab and waited anxiously for the results. During this time, I reflected on everything that had happened. Seeing Sarah with our son, witnessing her love and dedication, I felt more certain than ever that we could overcome any challenges together. A few days later, the results arrived. The test confirmed that I am indeed the father of our son. The relief and joy I felt were overwhelming. While deep down I had begun to trust that he was mine, having definitive proof lifted a tremendous weight off my shoulders. I shared the results with Sarah, and we embraced, both of us emotional. I apologized for doubting her, and she reassured me that she understood why I had felt the way I did. We agreed that moving forward, open communication would be essential in maintaining the strength of our relationship. I also decided to address things with Matt. We met privately, and I expressed my concerns about the boundaries in his friendship with Sarah. He apologized sincerely and admitted that he hadn't considered how his actions might be perceived. He assured me that he had no inappropriate intentions and agreed to maintain a more respectful distance moving forward. Now, as I sit here holding my son, I feel a profound sense of gratitude. Our journey wasn't without its hurdles, but it has brought Sarah and me even closer. We have learned the importance of communication, trust, and setting boundaries. I look forward to the future we'll build together as a family.